Your backyard may look calm now, but beneath the surface, a single missed weed can unleash a silent invasion. 1 year's seeding means 7 years of weeding. In the war for your garden, up to 90% of annual weed seeds erupt each spring, threatening to bury your hard work and choke out your favorite plants. Chemical sprays seem like the only fast fix, but there is a smarter way. Stop Weeds Fast isn't about harsh poisons. It's about instant, safe victories using simple science most gardeners ignore. And what you do in the next 10 minutes could decide whether you win the season or fight an endless battle. Ready for the truth about weed control that changes everything? Every garden holds a secret reserve, a buried bank of weed seeds waiting for their moment. It's not just the weeds you see above ground that matter. Underneath, thousands of seeds can lie dormant, some for decades, ready to sprout when conditions are right. Researchers have found that seeds of common weeds like purslane and pigweed can remain viable in the soil for 30 to 40 years. That's why the old rule holds true. 1 year of letting weeds drop seed can mean 7 years of extra weeding. The real danger isn't the weeds you pull today, but the ones about to flower and set seed. A single plant of bitter nightshade can produce over 800,000 seeds in one season. Once those seeds hit the ground, they don't all sprout at once. In fact, only a small fraction, sometimes just 5 to 30%, will germinate the next spring. The rest stay buried, waiting for the right mix of warmth, light, and moisture. This slow-release strategy is why weeds keep coming back, even after a big cleanup. Timing is everything. Most annual weeds, like crabgrass and lamb's quarters, launch their main attack in early spring, triggered by warming soil and longer days. The first warm spell, above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, is enough to wake up seeds clustered in the top inch of soil. For some species, it takes just a few days of the right temperature and moisture for a flush of seedlings to appear. Perennials, on the other hand, can send up shoots from deep roots even before annuals get started. Both types are racing to flower and drop seed before you can react. That's why weed scientists warn against waiting. The moment you spot a weed about to bloom, the clock is ticking. If it sets seed, you're not just fighting this year's problem. You're stocking the soil with trouble for seasons to come. The maxim isn't just a warning, it's a call to act before the next generation takes root. Every seed you stop now is hours of weeding you save in the future. In the next steps, the focus shifts from panic to action, showing exactly how to get ahead of weeds before they can rewrite the rules in your garden. When you need weeds gone fast, 2 moves work almost everywhere, and you don't need any chemicals or fancy tools. First up, hand pulling right after a good rain. Wet soil makes all the difference. Roots slide out with far less effort, and you're way more likely to get the whole plant, taproot and all. That's important, because if you snap a taproot halfway, many weeds just regrow from what's left. Studies show root pull force drops by as much as 40% in moist soil compared to dry, so you save your wrists and actually win the battle. Grab low, steady pressure and pull slow. For dandelions or deep-rooted troublemakers, a narrow trowel or weeding forks helps loosen the ground without tearing roots. Even a basic kitchen fork works in a pinch. Go for the crown, right where the leaves meet the soil, and coax the root straight up. If you see the whole taproot with little feeder roots attached, you nailed it. Toss the pulled weeds straight into a bucket so they don't re-root or drop seeds on the way out. Now, for weeds popping up in cracks or between pavers, skip the sprays. Boiling water is your secret weapon. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and that's the threshold for instant plant cell death. Pour directly onto the weed, as close to the base as you can. The heat ruptures cell walls and cooks the plant from the inside out. Most small weeds wilt within minutes, and roots die back after a couple of days. This works best on young, tender weeds. Older ones with thick crowns might need a second round. Always pour slowly to avoid splashing, and keep pets and bare feet away until the area cools. For safety, use a kettle with a spout. Wear closed shoes and pour from knee height or lower. Never use boiling water near wanted plants. The heat travels sideways in soil and can damage roots you want to keep. 10 minutes with gloves and a bucket after rain, plus a kettle for cracks, can clear a surprising amount of ground. These quick wins show you don't need chemicals or special gear to make a visible difference. Once you see those empty patches and clean joints, it's easier to stay ahead and tackle bigger fixes next. Weed seeds don't just sit there waiting for a sunny day. They're tuned to the smallest changes in their world. As soon as soil warms up and holds a bit of moisture, those seeds start to wake. Most of the troublemakers, crabgrass, lamb's quarters, foxtail, are set off by a string of days above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But here's where you can flip the script. You can use those same cues to drain the seed bank before your real plants ever go in. The trick is called the stale seed bed. It's not complicated, but it does take a little patience. You prep your soil as if you're about to plant. Rake it smooth, break up clumps, get it looking ready. But instead of dropping seeds, you just water and wait. That bare patch with its perfect seed-to-soil contact and steady moisture sends a clear signal to every weed seed near the surface. Now's your chance. Within a week or two, a flush of tiny seedlings pops up. That's your green light. Now comes the satisfying part. Grab a stirrup hoe, sometimes called a shuffle or scuffle hoe, and skim just the top centimeter or two of soil. The blade slices through the seedlings at the root collar, leaving them to dry out in the sun. No need to dig deep. In fact, going deeper just wakes up more seeds from below. The goal is to disturb as little soil as possible. Lee Reich, who spent decades perfecting weedless gardening, swears by this shallow pass. He says, "If you can slice weeds off when they're no bigger than a thread, you're winning." Timing matters. Research shows that a 20 to 30-day window before planting gives you the biggest bang for your buck. Enough time for most of the weed seed bank near the surface to sprout and get wiped out. In cool weather, it might take a little longer. If you get a warm spell, you might see 2 or even 3 flushes. Each time, wait for a new set of seedlings, then repeat the shallow hoe. You're not just cleaning up the surface, you're draining the future, one flush at a time. Degree day models used by farmers and researchers back this up. For species like smooth crabgrass, 150 growing degree days above a 50-degree base is all it takes to kick off germination. Others, like large crabgrass, need a bit more heat. But most common weeds will show themselves within that 20 to 30-day prep window if the soil stays moist. Once you've knocked back those first waves, the ground is primed for your real crops. And here's the payoff. When you finally plant, your seedlings aren't competing with a fresh army of weeds. The soil surface is clean, and the weed seed bank is already running on empty. That's the beauty of the Wake and Wipe. Simple, repeatable, and backed by both old-school wisdom and modern science. A thick layer of mulch does more than tidy up your beds. It's your first real shield against new weeds. Research from the Royal Horticultural Society shows that a 5 to 8 centimeter layer of organic mulch blocks sunlight, holding back most weed seedlings before they even break the surface. But there's a catch. Pile mulch right up to the stems, and you risk rot or pests. Always leave a 5 centimeter gap around trunks and plant bases, so air can circulate and the stems stay dry. Some gardeners reach for landscape fabric, thinking it's a permanent fix. But studies led by Dr. Linda Chalker-Scott at Washington State University prove otherwise. Fabric might slow weeds for a season, but once silt and organic debris build up, its water flow drops by up to 90%. That means roots struggle for air and moisture, and weeds start growing right on top, feeding off trapped dirt and decomposing mulch. Removing fabric later can turn into a wrestling match with tangled roots and stubborn plastic fibers. Instead, stick with mulch that breaks down naturally and feeds the soil. Charles Dowding, the champion of no-dig gardening, has put this to the test for decades. He skips the fabric and lays down compost, leaf mold, or wood chips right on the soil. His beds, managed with 5 to 7 centimeters of organic mulch, stay weed-free for months at a time. Dowding's records show less slug damage and stronger crops compared to beds covered with synthetic barriers. Over time, the mulch breaks down, attracting earthworms and improving drainage, so each year gets easier. For best results, top up your mulch once or twice a season, keeping that 5-centimeter buffer from stems. Coarse wood chips or shredded bark work well for paths and around perennials, while finer compost suits annual beds. The goal isn't to smother everything, but to create a soft, dark blanket that blocks light and holds moisture where your plants need it. Done right, this simple step locks out most weeds, saves hours of hand pulling, and builds healthier soil with every passing year. Sheet mulching is the move you make when nothing else will cut it. When you're staring down a patch of ground that's more weeds than soil and you want a total reset, not just a quick fix. This is the beginner-friendly overhaul that Kevin Espiritu swears by, and it's as close to a magic trick as you'll get in the garden. The secret? Layers. Each one doing a job, all working together to smother weeds and build new soil from the top down. Start with plain cardboard. No tape, no glossy print. Overlap the sheets by a good 10 centimeters so weeds can't sneak through the seams. The science here is simple. Cardboard blocks sunlight and cuts off oxygen, starving weed roots underneath. Once the cardboard's down, soak it with a hose until it's floppy and sticks tight to the ground. Don't rush this step. Wet cardboard molds to every bump and crevice, sealing out light and making sure nothing gets through. Next comes the compost layer, about 5 centimeters deep. This is what jumpstarts the soil life. Earthworms love cardboard, and as they move up to feed, they drag compost down with them, mixing and aerating the soil below. Top that with another 5 to 8 centimeters of wood chips or shredded bark. This layer keeps moisture in, slows down weed seeds that try to land on top, and gives the whole bed a clean, finished look. Keep mulch a hand's width away from stems or trunks to prevent rot and let air circulate. What's wild is how fast this works. According to the University of California's IPM program, most annual weeds are gone within 3 months, and even tough perennials lose steam as their roots starve. By the end of a season, the cardboard is mostly broken down, the mulch is melting into the compost, and the soil underneath is darker, looser, and ready for planting. You don't need to dig, till, or pull. Just let biology do the heavy lifting. Kevin's tip: if you're working in spring, get your layers down before weeds set seed. If you're prepping for fall, let the whole stack sit over winter and plant right through it come spring. The transformation is dramatic. Where there was once a mat of weeds, you get soft, crumbly soil and a blank canvas for new plants. It's the kind of fix that feels like cheating. But it's all about working with nature, not against it. After that, staying weed-free is just a matter of light upkeep. Planting densely is one of the simplest ways to keep weeds from ever getting started. When you pack in your vegetables, flowers, or shrubs so their leaves overlap, the soil underneath stays shaded. That's not just for looks. Weed seeds need sunlight to wake up and grow. Research from the Royal Horticultural Society shows that if you can shade even 70% of the soil, you'll cut weed germination by half. It's a living barrier, and you don't need to spend extra on mulch or fabric. Ground covers like creeping thyme, sweet woodruff, or ajaga work in beds and borders, spreading fast and knitting together to block light from reaching the ground. For open spaces or between crops, cover crops like oats or annual rye can fill in after harvest or before planting in spring. These are quick to sprout, easy to mow down, and their roots help keep the soil loose and healthy. Even in the off-season, a patch of winter rye or spring oats can hold the line against weeds until you're ready to plant again. The trick is to keep living roots in the ground as much of the year as possible. The more you cover, the less chance weeds have to get started. And as these plants grow, they also help the soil hold moisture and feed the microbes that keep everything ticking below the surface. It's a win for your garden, your back, and your budget, all by letting plants do the work of defending their own turf. Drip irrigation keeps water right where plants need it, at the roots, so you're not soaking bare soil and waking up weed seeds. Studies show drip systems can use up to 50% less water than sprinklers, and they leave fewer damp patches for weeds to get started. If you're still watering overhead, even switching to a simple soaker hose or a few drip lines can make a huge difference in how many weeds you see. The trick is to keep the soil surface dry between plants. Less splashing, fewer weeds, and your crops get all the benefit. Clean lines at the edge of your beds do more than look sharp. They stop grass and creeping weeds from sneaking in. A quick pass with a half-moon edger or even a square spade once a month keeps those borders tight. If you let lawn grass or runners like Creeping Charlie cross the line, they'll root fast and send shoots deep. Just a few minutes of edging now saves hours of digging later. The real secret to staying ahead is a weekly patrol. 10 minutes, gloves on, bucket in hand. Walk the beds, pull anything new before it gets big enough to fight back. Most weeds are easiest to pull when they're small, especially after a rain. If you keep up this rhythm, you're never overwhelmed, and you catch invaders before they can set seed. Joe Lample says, "Weed prevention is a habit, not a chore." That's the mindset. Little bits, often, and you win by default. So here's the question for you. What weed always gets the jump on you? Drop it in the comments and check off the checklist at the end. With targeted watering, sharp edges, and a quick weekly patrol, you lock in a low-effort routine that pays you back all season long. Over 90% of annual weed seeds can germinate each spring, according to the Weed Science Society of America. This documentary has shown that simple methods, like hand pulling after rain, maintaining a 5 to 8 centimeter mulch layer, and using cardboard sheet mulch, block up to 95% of light and disrupt the weed life cycle without chemicals. Studies reviewed here confirm that shallow hoeing at 1 to 2 centimeters targets seedling roots, and drip irrigation can cut water use by half while slowing weed growth. Yet, the full longevity of buried seeds and the long-term impact of alternative mulches are still being studied. While new tools and materials emerge, evidence remains clear. Weekly 10-minute patrols and dense plantings consistently outperform sporadic efforts. As researchers continue to test techniques for every climate, the documented results point to this. Fast, safe weed control is a matter of timing, simple tools, and routine, not expensive products. The battle against weeds starts in the soil and is won by informed action, season after season.